What's up, my comic comrades? In early 2024, Image and Skybound debuted a new series of titles based on the classic Universal monsters, starting with Dracula, then the creature from the Black Lagoon, and most recently Frankenstein. I imagine Wolfman and the Invisible Man will follow at some point as well, or at least we hope. Anyway, they have been really good, so today we're going to break down the complete 4-issue Dracula miniseries by James Tynion. Sure, it's a new year and we're months past Halloween, but it's never a wrong time to tell a good monster story, am I right? Okay, full transparency, this episode was supposed to come out for Halloween, but we didn't get to it in time. But hey, we've still got this creepy set to go along with the story, so in our book, that's a win for everybody. Also, we are massive Universal Monsters fans here at Variant. It's actually one of the first, if not the first, cinematic universe ever created, beating the MCU by decades. So with that said, let's jump into an all-new story about the most iconic version of Dracula. Issue 1 starts off with a creepy man named Mr. Renfield talking to a doctor while playing with flies, saying he promised me lives. Not the big ones, the small ones. The carrion, the insects, I take their lives into mine, you see, and I grow stronger. He has shown me how to do it. The doctor asks, would you show me, Mr. Renfield? Renfield replies, no. He wouldn't like that. His secrets are not mine to share. He knows the power of life is in the blood. He has shown me how to build it. As he eats a fly he just caught. He then continues to say, he promised me the little creatures. I will take my power from them, and I will serve my master. The doctor says, but there would be more power in the larger base, wouldn't there? In my blood, perhaps. Renfield looks at the doctor wide-eyed, saying, no, your blood is not mine to take. Your blood belongs to the master. The doctor asks, who are you talking about, Mr. Renfield? Who is this master of yours? And of course, his master is Dracula, who we see on a double-page spread. We're then taken to later in the day where we see the doctor is talking to a man in his office, and the man is saying, I'd love to see him, this Renfield character. The boys have been talking about him all week. About the Vesta, 14 sailors dead at the hands of this twitchy little solicitor found raving mad in the hole. The doctor says, wouldn't be a good idea, John. You should put all that out of your mind. John asks, is it true? He roped the captain to the wheel after ripping open his neck? That's what my school friend Quincy says. The doctor says he swears he didn't kill any of the men. Believes it too, as John says, like he was possessed by a kind of demon. The two men continue to have this conversation, and we find out that John is the fiance of this doctor's daughter. The doctor tells John, you shouldn't be talking about these things. You'll give Mina nightmares, referring to his daughter. The doctor then says, this Renfield character is interesting. I'll grant you that. We found him eating the flies and spiders from his windowsill. John says, spiders? My God. The doctor then shows John a chart saying, I suspect we're not even dealing with a sickness of the mind. His palate, skin, and strange hunger. I think we may have some kind of blood disease contracted in his journey to Transylvania. If I could treat the disease and remove it, I suspect his unusual behavior will abate as well. I believe he could be cured. John is shocked by this and is basically like, hold up, you want a man who did all this to innocent sailors to walk free? The doctor says, that's not for me to decide, John. I'm a doctor. He is my patient. I believe he can be healed, so I'll do what I can to heal him. John tells the doctor, you know there's this man, an old professor who comes down to the club. He sits at the fire and tells ghost stories about strange folk legends from the East, about ghouls and werewolves. He had a lot to say about the sailor's neck. He told us all to carry a crucifix in our pockets. The doctor tells John, I've always respected you for having a serious mind. Don't listen to that kind of rubbish. John says, I do have a serious mind. I just love a good story. The doctor says, one last time, think of my daughter Mina and put it to rest. We are then brought to Mina and her friend Lucy, who are talking about Renfield and the horrible things he did. Mina tells Lucy they say the captain's throat was ripped open, not with a serrated edge, but by someone's teeth. Animal or man, they could not say. Lucy then says, oh, I could use somebody ripping in my throat with their teeth. Mina then says, Lucy, and Lucy's like, hush. Tell me more. So she does, saying one of the men's arms was broken in 3 places, the bone jutting out of the skin. Mina then tells Lucy, I saw the man Renfield with my own eyes. He's such a little thing. How could he have had such strength? Lucy then begins to tease her, saying, you fell in love with him on the spot, and now you plan to elope. And what of poor John Harker? She continues to say, he should treat you better. Mina then says, he treats me fine. Lucy tells her he should spend more time with you than he does with your father or Quincy at the club. Mina responds, it's good that he shows such an interest in the asylum. It took so long for father to warm up to him. Lucy then looks out the window as they're both talking and says, there's a figure in the ruins over there, just standing in the yard. Mina asks, man or beast? Lucy says, looks like a man, and he's looking this way, as she starts falling into some sort of trance. As we see, she's looking at Dracula, and he's clearly working his magic on her. Dracula then turns into a wolf and howls at the moon as Renfield in his asylum starts howling as well, saying, master, I can hear you, master. A guard then comes into Renfield saying, what the hell are you on about, little man? Renfield then tells him it's Walpurgis night. decided. It is the Master's time. Now he'll feast on this dark city. That's right, Dracula has made his way to London and is now in the form of a wolf hunting the cobblestone streets of London, where he ultimately finds a red-headed woman and seduces her in his human form right before he sinks his teeth into her neck, leaving her body there on the cobblestone as he turns into a bat and flies away into the night before sunrise. I also have to say the art in this comic is beautiful. Martin Simmonds knocked it out of the park. It goes along with this Dracula old school monster vibe perfectly. But back to the comic. The next morning, the doctor talks to Renfield and Renfield tells him the Master grows more powerful. I can feel him in my mind, his thoughts. Renfield tells the doctor, he's been waiting for you, Dr. Seward. You and men like you don't believe in anything that matters anymore, not anything that could harm him. You only believe in yourself, as he believes in himself, and you won't believe in him. You can't. You don't have the stomach for it, but he believes in you, and you'll like what he does to your world, the color he brings to it. You won't understand it at first, but you'll like it, and then he'll take you. Dr. Seward then says there's an experimental treatment for what was developed here in London a few decades ago. We are going to remove your blood and replace it with clean, healthy blood and see if that helps you gain your senses. Renfield says, taking my blood? Dr. Seward says, it's a serious process, but if it works, I believe you could be cured. Renfield then enraged says, I don't want to be cured, as he starts attacking the doctor, but he's restrained by one of the guards saying, you can't take my blood. You don't understand. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to him. Master, you must stop him. You must stop them before they do this. Please, Master, as Dracula hears his cries in the coffin. And with that, the issue comes to the end, and that brings us to issue 2. Issue 2 starts off with Dr. Seward, John, Mina, and Lucy at a party. As they're walking out, Mina says, what a bizarre man, to which Lucy replies, did he say he was a count? Where was it he said he was from? Mina answers, Transylvania. Mina then asks her father, where's Transylvania? He tells her, very far from here. I'm not sure I could tell you precisely myself. Mina then asks Lucy, why are you grinning like that? And she tells her, well, he's exotic, isn't he? There was something about his eyes. Mina says, Lucy, behave yourself. My father is standing right there. So clearly Lucy is about it. She's been making all sorts of jokes and innuendos since we met her. Jonathan notices something is wrong with Dr. Seward and says, what's the matter? You look white as a sheet. He tells John, the ship, Mr. Renfield's ship. That's where it disembarked from, Transylvania. John says, I notice that all the time, a word you never heard before, and then all in one week you hear it over and over again. With Dr. Seward saying, yes, I suppose. John says the girls should be getting home, but we could take in a quick drink at the club. As the girls leave via horse and carriage, Dr. Seward looks back into the party where he sees the Count standing there, and for some reason the Count has a strange hold over the doctor, which John notices and says, have a drink with me, pulling him away from Dracula's gaze. The doctor says perhaps just one, and as they're walking to get a drink, Dracula in wolf form watches on with his fangs snarling. While drinking, an old man is there telling his ghost story, saying, I'll tell you what killed these men on your boat. It was no madman. It was no man at all. It was a creature of unholy dark magic. Nosferatu, the living dead, vampire. Dr. Seward and John are sitting down listening while drinking, as the doctor says, you really shouldn't listen to this old crackpot, John. And you should tell your friends the same. John tells him, oh, don't be a spoiled sport. It's all in good fun. The doctor says, it's fantasy. I don't even want to know which of you boys were stupid enough to put him up and let him drink through your parents' liquor. John tells him he's rather connected, actually. I saw a man from the church speaking to him a few days ago. He's a doctor, a man of science. Dr. Seward says you should be more wary of a man who brandishes his credentials. Just because a man drinks all over Europe doesn't make him an expert, John. The old man then comes over saying it's a good way to get a man's trust, yeah? The old man then formally introduces himself to Dr. Seward, saying, Professor Abraham Van Helsing. You are a doctor with the asylum, are you not? Or have I made a bit of a fool of myself? It's been known to happen on the 5th or 6th whiskey, and I'm afraid I've lost count. Dr. Seward says, you found me, Professor, which is crazy that this old man is Van Helsing, meaning his stories aren't just fairy tales, they're real because we all know Van Helsing and his lineage are monster hunters. Anyway, Van Helsing says, good, I would love to arrange a visit at your asylum. This Renfield character is of great interest to me and my work. Dr. Seward says, I'm afraid I won't allow it. Renfield is in a fragile enough state as it is. Van Helsing tells him, my dear Dr. Seward, I fear you don't know the half of it. At which point Seward says, John, I think I'd like to be heading home now. But John says, oh, come now, I'm sure the professor didn't mean anything by it. But Van Helsing says, oh, but the professor very much did, and the doctor should heed a friendly warning. Meanwhile, back to Lucy and Mina, we see the two getting ready for bed, and Lucy can't stop thinking about the Count, saying Castle Dracula in Transylvania, I bet it's beautiful. I bet it's something right out of a fairy tale. Mina then leaves the room saying, all right, Countess, don't stay up all night now. As Lucy is combing her hair before bed in front of the mirror, she can't help but think of Dracula, saying Count Dracula, at which point we see her fully under his control with red eyes as Dracula comes through the mirror. So clearly he was able to get his hold on her at the party, putting her in a trance, and now he's coming for her. We are then taken back to Renfield in his cell where he says, "I'm weak, master. Can you feel how weak I am? Is that why you have forsaken me?" He then says, "The doctor is altering me, stealing my essence. I feel you now. Will you give her the gift you deny me? Why won't you give it to me?" At this point, we're taken back to Lucy's room where we see she opens up her window, allowing Dracula to fly in bat form before he turns back into a human, sinking his teeth into her neck. The following morning, Mina is talking to her father, Dr. Seward, and she sees he's bothered, and he tells her, "There was a man last night, and he implied I didn't know what I was facing in one of my patients. I was terribly mad at him, but I think I was mad at myself because I am grasping at straws, and it feels like the world around me is under the spell of superstition. But can I blame them?" He tells her, "Forgive me, darling. These are tired thoughts better suited for the dead of night and quickly forgotten. Perhaps I'll take the day and rest." She says, "That's wise. I'll raise Lucy, and then we'll get you your tea and breakfast." But when she goes to wake Lucy, the doctor hears a scream, at which point he comes running in to reveal she has been killed, bitten on the neck, drained of blood, lying bloody in bed. And with that, we jump into issue 3. Issue 3 starts off with Mina and John at Lucy's funeral, where she's obviously extremely upset and creeped out, with John saying, "We should get you home." She says, "I don't want to go home, John. That's where this horrible thing happened. When I'm home, I feel so wretched, as if something lives in every shadow, some dark thing watching me, ready to take me as it took her." He tells her then, "We should get you out of the city, send you to one of your cousins." But as John is consoling her, he says, "Mina, look, right at the edge of the cemetery. It's the strange Transylvanian count." John says perhaps he's come to pay his respects for Lucy, but she says he won't come any closer than the gate. As Dracula looks on ominously, Mina tells John, "I feel so cold, and colder every day." The issue then takes us back to Dr. Seward, who's performing his blood transfer experiments in front of other doctors and colleagues. But after the experiment fails, his superior brings him into the office and says, "We have given you considerable latitude, Dr. Seward, and your experiments have not produced results. These are strange times. Professor Van Helsing is eccentric, but his expertise." Dr. Seward then interrupts, laughing at him, saying, "His expertise?" He has John and all the boys at the club all worked up into a stupor with a strange story of monsters. The man tells the doctor, "You think your blood experiments sound any less mad in the halls of the Parliament? They talked about you as if you should be locked away in your own sanatorium. The people of London are scared. If you don't want this hospital shut down, you will allow the professor to speak to Renfield. You will meet with him and discuss his findings, and you will help us make sense of the madness before he has a chance to continue." We then see that Mina has taken her father's keys to open Renfield's cell. Once she opens the cell, she goes, "Mr. Renfield, are you there?" He responds, "Yes, I usually am. Sometimes I like to go out for a walk, but it's nice and safe inside these walls. You have a kind voice. Do I know you?" She basically tells him, "I saw you when my father first brought you in. You were shouting something about flies." He says, "Oh, the doctor's daughter. Yes, I've seen you in my mind." In his mind. She then asks, "Would you step into the light?" He then tells her, "Oh, I don't think you would like to see me, Miss Seward." But she insists, saying, "I snuck the key from my dad's jacket." And he basically tells her it's unwise for a young lady like yourself to move through the shadows at night. There are things in the shadows. She asks, "What things, Mr. Renfield? I wish to know." Renfield then goes on to talk about his master, aka Dracula, and how he wishes the master would take him fully. Meanwhile, Mina offers to clean some of the muck off of Renfield, showing him kindness, saying, "As much as whatever dark spirit haunts this city, I wish to understand what happened to my dear friend. What happened to all those poor people?" At which point her dad comes in saying, "What in God's name are you doing here?" Renfield then tells the doctor, "You have a curious daughter, doctor." The doctor says, "Watch yourself, Renfield," with Renfield responding, "No, doctor, it is you who should watch yourself. Hell is closing in on you from every corner, and you still refuse to see it." As Dr. Seward walks his daughter home, he reprimands her, saying, "You're smarter than this, Mina. Do I have to remind you what happened to Lucy?" She says, "I promise you do not. I live with the sight of it every day. I feel like wherever I am these days, I'm being watched." And she's 100% right, because Dracula is currently watching her somewhere in a dark alley. We then see Abraham Van Helsing walking the streets as he sees a bat fly overhead, at which point he grabs a crucifix out of his jacket. Of course, this is Dracula making his way to the asylum and Renfield's cell. Dracula then hovers outside of his cell as Renfield says, "Master, yes, master, I feel you. Master, please. I don't know how much more I can take. The doctor's treatments are making me feel so unnatural. You are going to turn her human tonight. Make them like you." Dracula just stares at Renfield, with Renfield getting the message, saying, "No, master, not her. Anybody but her. Please, master, listen to me, please." Dracula then leaves with Renfield in a cell, saying, "No, the only one that was kind to me, please." We then see Van Helsing meet up with Dr. Seward at the club. Van Helsing says, "I would have gladly come to your home or your office," but Dr. Seward says, "I thought the club would be more suitable." He continues to tell him, "I'm not the one you need to fear inviting into your home. The city has invited the darkness upon it. There's a rot to London this creature we hunt has taken advantage of. It knows that we are weak in the face of the power it seeks seeks to tempt us with. Who would not be tempted by immortal life, by immense strength, by succumbing to our animal natures and becoming true predators, ripping at our prey with our teeth? But it is too selfish to share that power. It will take what it wants soul by soul, marring the fabric of your country until it belongs fully to him. But there is hope, grace, love, human compassion. We have vile animal traits to us, but there is something godly to something more. And this creature hates that. It wishes to sully the pure, make it dirty. The doctor asks, how do we stop it? Helsing tells him it's quite simple really. We hunt it and kill it before it could take what matters to us most. And while Van Helsing and the doctor are having this conversation, we see Dracula has invaded Mina's room, biting her on the neck. And with that, we go to the fourth and final issue. Issue 4 starts off with Renfield escaping his cell, saying, I was a man once, I was greedy. It seems so fantastic to travel so far in secret, all to have some papers signed, to visit a count in a castle far to the east. When I was a little boy, I dreamed I was an adventurer in the jungles of India. This wasn't India, but it was my adventure. I would come back with stories, you see, and the men with their hard faces who always looked down at me, who always thought me strange and soft, they would respect me, because I dared to go to those dark mountains on the other side of the world. On Walpurgis night, on the night of evil, at Castle Dracula. We would leave by ship the next night, he said. I remember feeling strange. His power was already inside me, his fingers scraping the inside of my skull. His brides came to me and they whispered things in my mind. They said they would give me pleasure I had never felt before, but he casted them away. He would give me something more. He would give me purpose. He would give me power. I would sit by his side. I would have dominion of the vermin and take my own power from them. I wanted it more than I have ever wanted anything, because men are wicked and they deserve no better than my master's fangs. But the girl Mina, she's different. She's innocent. She deserves peace, and I fear all I must do to save her. I fear I do not have the power to face my master. I fear that I am beyond saving, but I pray she is not. So essentially we get the origin of how Renfield became a disciple of Dracula. And like we started seeing in the last issue, Mina was kind to him, so he doesn't want his master to take her. Anyway, right after this, Dracula appears to Renfield once more and gives him a plethora of rats to drink. Renfield says, that's for me, master? You would give them all to me? I was afraid. I thought you didn't care. Thank you, master. Thank you. As he sinks his teeth into all the rats. We are then taken back to Mina and we see that Van Helsing has told the doctor he needs to lock her in a room for her own safety. The doctor asks his daughter, is it true, Mina? You were speaking to Dracula last night? She says, I wanted to hear stories of far-off lands, of castles. He's a kind man. And his voice, father, I feel like I could bathe in his voice and its strangeness. He tells her, you're not yourself, Mina. She says, Lucy always had fun, didn't she? But I only imagined it. And now I imagine Count Dracula. I imagine him over me. I imagine his eyes, his power. The doctor slowly realizes that Count Dracula has gotten into his daughter and she's under his control as her eyes glow red. So the doctor goes to meet Van Helsing and Van Helsing basically says, your daughter's in the throttle of the vampire now. As long as it walks the earth, the creature in that bedroom is not your daughter. She is his bride, under his dark power. Soon her mortal body will die, and if it rises next to him, her soul will be gone forever. The doctor says, I can't accept that. I am a man of science. Van Helsing then says Dracula has flown towards the ruins of Carfax Abbey, and somewhere within it will find his resting place, and there we'll kill him. And I hate to say it, should your daughter not be recovered in time, we'll have to kill her too. The doctor says, I feel as though I should want to strike you, but there's nothing left in me. The look in my daughter's eyes is the same Renfield gave me when I told him I would take his blood away. After some more conversation between the two of them, John comes running in saying, Dr. Seward, Professor Van Helsing. They ask, what is it, John? He tells them, Mina, she's gone. At which point, Van Helsing says, to Carfax Abbey then. And we must be quick about it. We then see that Mina is indeed at Carfax Abbey with Dracula, but Renfield is also there. John spots him and asks Renfield, what's he doing at the Abbey? Van Helsing then says, come on, Mr. Harker, where else would he be going but to Dracula? Inside, we see Renfield meet Dracula and Mina on the staircase, but Renfield is trying to talk to Dracula. They hear John, Van Helsing, and the doctor yelling Mina's name, at which point Dracula snarls at Renfield, but Renfield says, I didn't lead them here, master. I didn't know, I swear. But Dracula doesn't care as he goes to grab Renfield. Renfield says, don't kill me, let me live. Please punish me, torture me, but let me live. I can't die with all those lives on my conscience, all the blood on my hands, her blood, the one kind person, and I let you take her, and I believe you saved me. But now I know. Now I know, as Dracula throws Renfield off the staircase. Mina watches in horror as she sees Renfield hit the floor and even screams, but she can't do anything because she's under Dracula's trance. John hears her screams as they find Renfield lying on the floor dying. The doctor says, my God, what have they done to this poor creature? He then tells Van Helsing, save my daughter from that thing. Please, Professor. Van Helsing and John then go find Mina and Dracula as the doctor stays with Renfield, and Renfield asks not for medical help, but for grace. The doctor says, I am not a religious man, not like Professor Van Helsing. We then see Van Helsing find a coffin, but it's empty, telling John that means Mina could still be alive. find her. Van Helsing then finds another coffin that has Dracula inside. Dracula tries to use his powers to fight Van Helsing, but Van Helsing acts quickly, taking the crossed wooden stake and driving the wooden stake through his heart kills Dracula. Dracula attempted to fight back, but it was too late and Van Helsing was able to kill him. Meanwhile, back to Renfield and the doctor, Renfield tells the doctor, Dracula isn't a man, Dracula is immortal, forever. What happens in the crypt below doesn't matter. He will have the world, but you will have your daughter. I hope. As we see, John has found Mina and she's safe, no longer under Dracula's influence. Renfield finally asks the doctor again, will you give me grace, doctor? Will you forgive me for what I have done? Will you look upon me as a man, not a bug? The doctor grabs his hand saying, Renfield, of course I forgive you. And with that, Renfield's final words are, I'm still damned, but I'm damned a human, not some other thing. And on the final page of the issue, we see the doctor walking out holding the body of Renfield, and with that, the Universal Monsters Dracula comes to an end. This was a phenomenal story by James Tynion and Martin Simmonds. If you're a fan of the original Bela Lugosi Dracula and the Universal Monsters, you know how this stayed true to the original character. The most iconic version of the character, the art, the dialogue, the tone, vibe, everything felt 100% like Bela Lugosi and the Universal Monsters. And that's exactly what we would want from this book. My only gripe is it's only 4 issues because I want more. But if you like this one, Image and Skybound have several Universal Monsters books like Frankenstein and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which are also phenomenal. We may even cover them here on the channel pretty soon because we like them that much. But let us know your 2 cents in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.